Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our men's advanced Bible study night, 6th of June, 2025. Okay. I'll be reading out of for our scripture reading. I'll be reading out of the book of Exodus, out of the Targums, and I'll be reading chapter 29. I'm gonna read that chapter, and then I'll read it and break it down, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. You can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at and examine, get the meat out. These scriptures, these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. If you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And for those that want to support the channel, help it move along, we have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen. That too will be greatly appreciated. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel. For those that don't know, we deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer, Lord of hosts. And they consist of our laws, our statutes, and our judgments, and our way of life as Hebrew Israelites. Okay. This channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity. So shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our men's advanced Bible study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms, or we have current events, some need to know information, and then we open it up to anybody with any questions or comments, any dialogue. Then we got our topic for discussion, which I posted the video on Messenger. We'll be dealing with Project Esther, right, and uncovering it. Okay. Then, like I said, we'll be reading out of Exodus chapter 29 out of the Targum. We're going to read that and break it down. Then we'll pick a scripture from Tanakh or some of our lost books, and then we'll break it down, read it and break it down. Then we'll close out. Okay. Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and your wisdom, and we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of the people of Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers, and you, O Lord, have directed us to who you are and your role in the goings on of heaven and earth. We come this day doubtless that you would appear, that you would gather your nation from among these wicked Gentiles. Oh Lord, you spoke through the prophet Isaiah, and you said that you would help Abraham's seed, and that you have scattered. You have completed that promise as of this day. And you said, oh Lord, that you will remove the darkness from around us. Tarry not, oh Lord, for the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay. We'll read the Psalms right quick.
Yes, sir. Shalom, Brother Leonard. I'll read Psalms 116, verse 1. I love the Lord because he hath heard my voice and my supplications, because he hath inclined his ear unto me. Therefore, I will call upon him as long as I live. The sorrows of death compassed me, and the pains of hell gat hold upon me. I found trouble and sorrow. Then I called upon the name of the Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul. Gracious is the Lord and righteous. Yea, our God is merciful. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, and he helped me. Return unto thy rest, O my soul, for the Lord hath dealt bountifully with thee. For thou hast delivered my soul from death, mine eyes from tears, and my feet from falling. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. I believe. Therefore I have spoken. I was greatly afflicted. I said in my haste, all men are liars. Verse 12. What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits toward me? I will take the cup of salvation and call upon the name of the Lord. I will pay my vows unto the Lord, now in the presence of all his people. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his of his saints. O Lord, truly, I am thy servant. I am thy servant and the son of thine handmaid. Thou hast loosed my bonds. I will offer to thee the sacrifice of thanksgiving, and I will call upon the Lord. I will pay my vows upon the Lord now in the presence of all his people, in the courts of the Lord's house, in the midst of thee, O Jerusalem. Praise ye the Lord. Shalom. Psalms 116.
116. Say
Yes, sir.
116. Okay,
Yes, sir.
you got any comments on that?
Oh, brother Leonard, you've been talking about the Lord being in the midst.
Right.
In verse 9, yes, sir, in verse 19, that's what it says in the courts of the Lord's house, in the midst of thee, O Jerusalem, praise ye the Lord. So that verse stuck out. And then, but brother Leonard, I have could you break down uh verse 3, verse 3 for us?
Okay, it says, the sorrows of death have compassed me, and the pains of hell gap upon me. I found trouble and sorrow. So that takes you back to David had a vision before he died, which takes you to 2 Samuel 23. Let me see that quick. It's 2 Samuel 23. If I'm not mistaken, maybe 22. Yeah, 22. It says verses 2 Samuel 22, 5 and 6. When the waves of death compassed me, the flood of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. Snares of death prevented me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord, and I cried to my God, and He did hear my voice out of His temple, and my cry did enter His ears. So, what we don't get, what's in 116 says, verse 3 says, the sorrows of death, right? The sorrows of death compass me, uh, and the pains of hell get hold of me, and I found trouble and sorrow. But it tells you over here in David who these pains are, and it says in 2 Samuel 22 verse 5, when the waves of death compassed me, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. That's what he's talking about. So these ungodly men are, like I was saying, because those giants came from, uh, they wasn't, the spirit that's in them didn't come from heaven. It's a mingled spirit. So when they die, they go to hell. That was one of the reasons the Creator created hell, was for those wicked spirits. That's where they go, and the angels bound. So when they go there, that's what they had. So they tried to, when David passed away, they tried to hold David in hell. They tried to prevent him from rising, because the spirit that's in the Israelites, when that man or that person dies, that spirit ascends into heaven, back where it came from. So they was being that David is the Messiah, especially, they tried to hold him. They tried to prevent him from ascending into heaven, which takes us to uh, 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 verse 9. There went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and a fire out of his mouth devoured. So David called on it, right? Because he was in a bind. Coals were kindled by it, and he bowed the heavens, and he came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub, and he did fly, and he was seen upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness a pavilion round about him, dark waters, thick clouds of the sky, and through the brightness before him were coals of fire kindled. And then the Lord of hosts, thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice, and he sent out arrows, scattered them. That's these wicked spirits, lightning, and discomfited them. And the channels of the sea were appeared. Foundations of the world were discovered at the rebuking of the Lord, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. Then it says 17, he sent me from above. He sent from above. He took me and drew me out of many waters. So all we looking at is, like I said in the book that I wrote, about the characteristics of these seven angels. That's one of their jobs. Some of them jobs overlap, but they are to monitor the God's people. When they pass that soul, they guide their soul back to heaven. So all he was doing was when David cried to him, when they tried to prevent him, he was just doing his job. Okay, that make any sense?
Right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like verse 19, it says, "In the courts of the Lord house, that's the temple, right? In the midst of thee, O Jerusalem, praise ye the Lord." So it's telling you right there, when you understand what the midst is, he's there amongst them, in the midst of them, when they at these high in the temple, because it's his temple, not Yahweh. Yahweh have his own temple in heaven, so he's there amongst them in the temple, especially on those high holy days in the Shabbat. Okay.
So
So
shalom, brother Leonard. Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry. So somebody, so they seen his face then.
yeah. Well, the Levites,
Right.
yes, and then especially the high priest and David and those prophets, they dealing with him. They see he can appear to them, or he don't have to. But some of them he's appearing. Or prime example was in Second Samuel when David wanted to build a temple. Then it said that night the Lord appeared to Nathan and told him, "Go tell David such and such." And then in that same chapter, then he turned around and appeared. David went in before him and he talked to David. So we see in certain situations, he show himself. He appeared to Abraham in Genesis 18.
Exactly. So brother Leonard, so there's the Most High is above this Lord that you're talking about in Genesis 18 and that we're talking about in Psalms 116.
Yeah. He's the right hand. He's the right hand man of the Lord of Almighty, the Creator. That's his right hand man. He's actually the one doing all the dirty work. He's like the strong one, the strong one. All of them are strong ones because they all L's, but he's the strong one. He's second in charge in heaven. He's the Most High's right hand man. Like I said, his name means he who is like Yahweh. So that you can't have a name like that and be Yahweh. He says his name means he who is like Yahweh. So he's an entity in himself. He's just like he's operating and moving like Yahweh. That's why so many people thinking, especially they went out scriptures too. People thinking it's the Most High, but it ain't the Most High. He's moving like the Most High. That's why he says his name is in him. Okay.
Yes, sir. Make perfect sense.
Right. So, with that being said, we're gonna go to our current events. Then we'll play them and break them down. So we was kind of talking about this last night, and I said that we was gonna watch it play out. It started with Michelle was bringing it up on our various Bible study nights that Elon Musk and Trump, right? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pick up on that on the first current event where they trying to send Trump and Mega is trying to send Elon Musk out of the country. They're trying to say he's a national security threat. Let's play it. It's getting ugly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Just like I said yesterday, I believe it was, things are worse than they seem. Right now, Elon Musk is being called a national security threat of the highest order. And there's more and more talk of him being deported. Before getting into this breaking news, I want you all to go ahead and share this video. If you are new to the channel, consider subscribing if you enjoy the truth. Definitely tap on that notification bell so you can be notified each and every time we upload or go live. This situation is getting worse. It's not just a matter of grabbing yourself a bowl of popcorn or sipping on some tea. Family, this is worse than what we thought. And it seems like we are not the only ones thinking the same thing concerning Elon Musk. Now, I talked about all of the access that this man had to very, very sensitive, private information. He was granted that access by Donald Trump and his administration. Now we are seeing something that is unprecedented. This is the first time we've ever seen something like this in our lifetimes happening in America. This malfunctioning of the US government is definitely beyond epic. I'm going to be sharing some more details with you in just a moment, but I want us to understand the gravity of this whole situation. This man is being called a national security threat. Do we understand that? A national security threat. We were already concerned with the fact that he was getting access. He was granted access to very sensitive information. He was sitting up in Pentagon meetings. They were acting as if he was the one in charge. They were calling him the unelected president. So Elon Musk was given all kinds of information. All kinds of information. But now the bromance is over and things are spiraling out of control. What I want us to do, and I say this often, I don't want us to just look at this stuff like, oh, their system is falling apart. We have to pray for the protection of the Most High, because this thing is falling and it's falling fast. And it is definitely getting to be very, very frightening. This is a very frightening thing we are looking at, not to be taken lightly. Definitely something we need to pray about, a situation that is, in my opinion, very dire at this point. Who knows what this wicked man would do with the information that he was given access to? How much information was he given? When he sat in these high-level meetings, when he was sitting there in Pentagon meetings, when he was given access to Treasury information, all of our personal data, what was he doing with it? What was he doing with all this information?
Seniors writer, Jack LaHutte. Okay, so Jake, the internet went nuts. Group chats exploded. Everywhere I went, I overheard people talking about it, including the grocery store. Everyone's talking about this feud, right? If Musk is now out of that inner circle in the White House, is he open for political business elsewhere?
Well, that is a hot topic among my sources right now. I think the future of America PAC, if we just limit it to that with his outside spending, is pretty unclear. It right now only has about $2.2-ish million in cash on hand. And I think the speculation and the concern is, frankly, Elon could cause a lot more problems for incumbent members of Congress. And then it gets trickier with like who has the leverage between Elon and Trump. But if you're just your rank and file Republican right now looking at re-election in 2026, I don't think you love the prospect of America PAC bombarding you with ads, even if the Trump endorsement and the Trump alignment isn't part of that equation.
And we know big tech leaders threw billions behind Trump in the last election cycle, other candidates. How much weight does Elon Musk's voice carry there now?
Well, I think it's getting trickier, and this is actually indicative of one, I would say, a power vacuum that's going to be brewing going into 2028, and then some slight fissure and splintering going on with the Silicon Valley wing of the GOP, where a lot of these folks who got on the Trump train, most of whom were after the assassination and after environment that Republicans find themselves in.
For small businesses,
there is very little room for error. So if Elon Musk decides to get involved in just 4 or 5, maybe 10 different House races where he provides a lot of grief for incumbent House Republicans, that could be the difference between winning or losing the majority in the 2026 elections. Right now, though, it's just too difficult to predict.
Yeah, sure. Where some Republicans maybe see a threat, Democrats do sense an opening. Politico puts it this way: Democrats eye a villain to ally arc for Elon Musk. What would that even look like? And would voters buy it?
No, I don't think anybody wants to be near Elon Musk. I mean, 48 hours ago, he was one of the most toxic figures in American life. He had some support among MAGA and Trump diehards. He's lost that. I mean, can we just step back and think about what we've seen, what Elon Musk is really like, and what Donald Trump is really like? Elon Musk was basically accusing Donald Trump of being a pedophile. I mean, and these are the people that are making these key decisions about America's future. I mean, it's just absolutely shocking and depressing and revealing when they kind of rip off the mask. You have this guy who, by Wall Street Journal, New York Times reported heavy drug use. A guy who Wired Magazine reported may very well have lied about his status when he applied for citizenship, in which case it would be grounds for his citizenship being revoked and deported. It's just a complete dark chapter. And what you look
well, it's a dark chapter, Stuart, but the fact of the matter is, one got elected president of the United States, and one, in spite of everything you just talked about, is the richest man in the world. So where does that leave things?
Well, I think it makes you question the value of being the richest man in the world. Is that the only value? What other sort of human qualities, what sense of decency, of compassion, of basic ability to function?
Okay, you heard anything about that? It looks like it's getting ugly.
Right, yes, sir. I guess he's gonna have to go to Africa then
Right.
if he got to leave the US, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then Brother Leonard too, how they're talking about, you know, him having the access to the information, like you know, IRS kind of things and stuff like that. But he owns Twitter too. And so that's you know, and Twitter got a lot of information. People who use it, you know, they know your thoughts, what you really, you know, how you really feel. You know, Twitter, one of them uncensored social media sites. And you know, so
Right. Yeah. He kind of like, what's the guy name? The one they got banned from America. There's 2 of them. Or they like not. It's like I can't think of his name. It'll come to me, but it's like Elon Musk. That guy ain't got nothing on Elon Musk. He's like he's that guy on steroids. I think it's he leaked that security information a while back. He blonde headed.
you ain't talking about Ike, are you?
Nah, the other dude. It's 2 of them. One of them, the young buck. I can't think of their name. If he come to America, they're gonna lock him up. He's supposed to be a spy. He got blonde hair. I can't think of his name though. Yeah. It come to me. Yeah. So yeah. Let me get it to the next one.
Explore hand-picked hotels through the edit.
This right here was China they say China is trying to poison the U.S. food supply. Check it out.
FBI now says that China could be trying to attack the U.S. food supply and what they call agro-terrorism. Today, we're going to discuss this and go over what we are now hearing is 2 Chinese researchers from the University of Michigan actually brought in a deadly or a very toxic pathogen into the United States, which could actually turn deadly. I want to break down what's going on, why the FBI says this is highly concerning, and why some from the Trump administration say this is what we have been trying to move away from, and why we are trying to control who comes into the United States through our borders. So I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, explain what is going on and what we should be looking for moving forward. But first, before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So this is frightening when we are now hearing about a report that happened a long time ago. I want to show you something. Look at this right here. It says Chinese couple charged with smuggling a biological pathogen into the U.S. It says something Jian, a researcher at the University of Michigan, and her boyfriend, something Lu, studied the pathogen as university students in China. What we are hearing from experts is that some researchers in China and some people that are potentially trying to cause harm to people in the United States or anywhere in any country, they don't want to do all their research in their home country, because what could happen is there could be an outbreak, somebody could get exposed, just like happened with COVID, and then it really spreads from there. And so what experts are now saying is that for a lot of these, terrorists or whatever you want to call them, researchers, again, I know they're not, the same, but it would be easier for them to do some of the research, bring in samples to another country. And this is why some from the Trump administration are saying we need to be well aware of who we are putting through school, who we are paying to do our research here in the United States. But I want to play you this clip, okay? Look at this right here. It's from Fox News. Listen to this.
Well, the FBI warning Americans that our food supply may be the target of attacks from China. Here's a photo of the fungus found at the Detroit airport last year.
That's crazy. This happened last year, okay? Now, here's the reason why I'm bringing this up. What we are seeing right now is Chinese companies are buying up acres of land. This is nothing new, and this is something that many lawmakers have questioned over the years, is why are Chinese companies buying so much land? Why are they buying, all this farmland? Why are they buying, pieces of land near nuclear facilities? That's the big question. And again, some of these companies, and again, I'm not saying Chinese companies are all bad, but some of these Chinese companies, well, there's really nothing there. How is this company still even in business? They don't sell anything, they don't really do anything, but how are they still in business? And what we always get is, oh, it's part of our future plans. I want to keep playing this clip for you, because again, these baggies of these samples of this pathogen were found in a person's backpack last year. See, listen.
It was found in 4 plastic baggies. It was stashed into wads of tissue paper, and authorities say that the toxins cause, quote, vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive defects in both humans and livestock.
So right there, vomiting, yeah, that's troubling. You eat anything, and now you think it's food poisoning, but really it's something else, right? A dangerous pathogen. But it also affects reproductive systems. Okay, keep listening though.
What were they doing with this? Why were they trying to bring this into our country? Now, according to a U.S. Attorney's office in Michigan, the 34-year-old Chinese researcher who works at the University of Michigan intentionally hid the samples in his backpack because he knew that the restrictions on importing them existed. Professor claims he had hoped
Yeah.
to do further research on the fungus at his University of Michigan lab. FBI Director Kash Patel says, quote, "This case is sobering. It's a reminder that the Chinese Communist Party continues to deploy operatives and researchers to infiltrate our institutions and target our food supply, an act that could cripple our economy and endanger American lives."
And you can't reproduce for whatever reason, that's concerning as well. So yes, the liver damage, obviously that's concerning, and it could potentially be fatal. Vomiting, obviously that's concerning. Nobody wants to do that. But again, there could be bigger issues here. I want to read this to you though as well. It does say in the 25-page criminal complaint, it does not allege that defendants who investigators say were in a relationship had any plans to spread the fungus beyond the lab. But it says Liu was aware of the restrictions on the material and deliberately hid it in a wad of tissues in his backpack.
Okay. Got any comments on that? You heard anything about that?
Right, no sir. That's crazy though, and definitely
Right.
is intentional.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like what happened a couple of years ago all over again. Is that
Right, like they said it would.
right?
This
Exactly. Okay, here we go. Some need to know information.
In Ouagadougou in May 2025, when Ibrahim Traoré was awakened by an urgent call from Colonel Kassoum Koulibaly, the defense minister. Mr. President, our intelligence has intercepted extremely worrying American communications. You must see this immediately. Ibrahim dressed quickly and rushed to the military command center in the presidential palace. In the secure room, classified documents were spread out on the table, each marked with CIA and Pentagon stamps. What have you discovered? Ibrahim asked, still processing the gravity of the situation. Operation Sahel Reset, sir, the colonel said, pointing to a specific document. American plan to destabilize African governments that do not align with Washington's interests. Burkina Faso is on the priority list. Ibrahim read the document with growing horror. The plan detailed psychological operations, economic sabotage, and even preparation for regime change, if necessary. How many American agents do we have in the country? He asked, his voice thick with determination. 747 registered. American citizens, sir. Our services have identified that 700 of them have direct or indirect links to intelligence agencies, reported the Chief of National Intelligence, Major Umaru Sawadogo. Ibrahim took a deep breath. At 35, he had faced many challenges, but never such a direct threat to national sovereignty. Call an emergency meeting of the National Security Council. I want all the ministers here in 2 hours. And the Americans, sir? The colonel asked. We will give them exactly 48 hours to leave our country, Ibrahim said firmly. Burkina Faso will not be a laboratory for American geopolitical experiments. Meanwhile, at the American embassy in Ouagadougou, Ambassador William Henderson did not yet know that his world was about to come crashing down. 2 hours later, the presidential palace was abuzz with military and diplomatic activity. Ibrahim Traoré was in the Situation Room, surrounded by his top ministers and military commanders. The atmosphere was thick as smoke. Gentlemen, Ibrahim began, projecting the intercepted documents on the big screen. Today, we have learned that the United States is planning a destabilization operation against our government. This is not speculation. These are official CIA documents. Dr. Alphonse Ouedraogo, the foreign minister, studied the papers with growing indignation. President, this is a flagrant violation of our sovereignty. They are planning to treat us as a colony. Operation Sahel Reset envisages 3 phases, Ibrahim continued, pointing to a detailed timetable. First, economic destabilization through sanctions and pressure on trading partners. Second, psychological operations to create internal divisions. Third, support for opposition groups for democratic change, a euphemism for a coup. Mitimata Sawadogo, the Minister of Economy, shook her head in horror. Mr. President, this explains the recent pressures on our trade agreements with China and Russia. It was no coincidence. Exactly, Ibrahim agreed. And it explains why we have 700 American citizens in a country of 22 million people. Such a proportion is statistically impossible without a hidden agenda. Major Sawadogo presented profiles of the suspects. Sir, 340 are ex-military, 180 have intelligence backgrounds, 125 work for NGOs with questionable funding, 55 are journalists with no verifiable credentials. They all leave, Ibrahim declared. 48 hours, no exceptions. And if Washington refuses, Colonel Coulibaly asked, then we will show the world what they really have planned for Africa, Ibrahim replied, touching an even thicker confidential folder. We have evidence that will shock the international community. The decision was made. Burkina Faso would declare real independence for the first time in decades. At 2 p.m. sharp, Ibrahim Traoré asked for an official letter to be prepared for the American ambassador. In his private office, with the Burkina Faso flag flying in the background, he dictated each word carefully to his secretary. Your Excellency William Henderson, Ambassador of the United States, the letter began. It is with deep regret that I inform you of the discovery of compromising documents relating to American intelligence operations on Burkina Faso soil. The letter continued in diplomatic but firm language. Operation Sahel Reset constitutes an unacceptable violation of our national sovereignty. Consequently, the government of Burkina Faso declares 700 American citizens persona non grata, demanding their immediate departure within 48 hours. Ibrahim paused, considering his next words carefully. In addition, copies of intercepted documents will be shared with the African Union, the United Nations, and international media to demonstrate systematic patterns of American interference in African affairs.
Okay, so like I was saying before, I was talking about this a while back, how they can send like 10, 15 people into a country, and then they have that type of skill. And then next thing you know, the whole company, you look at it on the news, they say the country is in turmoil and upheaval, and you think it's just something that happened. No, they got a process how they do that. And so that's where Tory peaked out. So he kicked all the Americans, all of them out of Burkina Faso. They pros at that. Okay. And they do it over here too. Okay. All we see is the results. We never see the conspirators. We just see the results. But they have that intelligence to do that type of stuff. Okay. Any comments on that?
Yes, sir. That makes that, Brother Lee Shalom. I'm sorry. That makes sense though. That's what they like you said, that's what they do. And they show that too in a lot of films and a lot of TV shows. You know, those tactics you talking about don't even take a lot of them.
Oh yeah. And you thinking it's they there for one reason, like he said, they have out of 22 million people in Burkina Faso, it's only 700 of them. So he's saying that, so that means got to be something going on. Then he started looking at they started evaluating everybody, and then it was something like 175 of them supposedly was part of what they call it, the news, but they have the credentials to be news reporters. They say they're news reporters, but they wasn't. So when they peeped that out, they put all of them out. And like I said, that's going to start probably happening all over. He just setting these stage for it. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir. And that sounds like eventually it's gonna be retaliation of all right, all your people can leave from here.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's what they want. And then, like I was saying, you sitting back thinking that, oh, they kicking everybody out. They taking over their countries. They're taking them back. Yeah, they don't mind you saying that, as long as they still got them folks still there. As long as they still got their teeth in the country, they good. Now it's a problem because they kicking them out. Okay.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we want to open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments, or any dialogue about anything that they came across they want to talk about? Okay. I'm gonna play this and then we'll go to our topic for discussion. Yeah. Here we go.
With not what's trending, but let's talk about what really matters, what should be keeping you up at night, but maybe isn't because it's not on your feed, or at least it's not yet. As anti-Semitism is spreading its civilizational poison all over America, as Tom Homan yesterday warned of another 9/11 style attack on the homeland, as the Democrats strangely keep fighting for the rights of those who are literally spreading hate, violence, and death in our colleges and our streets, as Congress remains fast asleep, yet you're wide awake every night, kept awake by your growing debt and shrinking dollar. Let me share the latest from Jamie Dimon that nobody I have seen has shared with you yet. It was a talk that he gave at the Reagan National Defense Forum in California. Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest and most influential financial institutions on earth, he delivered a warning. And it wasn't about coming interest rates, not about inflation curves or crypto adoption or anything else. I want you to hear what he said about Bitcoin. Do we have that audio, please?
I was saying we should be stockpiling Bitcoin. We should be stockpiling guns, bullets, tanks, planes, drones, rare earths. We know what we need to do. This is not a mystery.
Did you say stockpiling Bitcoin?
I said we shouldn't be stockpiling Bitcoin.
Shouldn't be.
We should be stockpiling bullets.
Okay.
The military guys tell you that, if there's a war in the South China Sea, we have missiles for 7 days. Okay, come on. I mean, we can't say that with a straight face and think that's okay.
You notice what the reporter did on stage? She was trying to do a gotcha. You're saying we should stock Bitcoin? Oh, okay. All right. She missed the whole point. He's referencing the Pentagon data saying we only have enough precision-guided missiles for 7 days of sustained conflict. I don't know. Does that sound like a problem for anybody? Let that settle in. A week. That's what stands between deterrence and desperation if war would break out in the South China Sea. 7 days. And remember what I shared with you yesterday, the drone bombing in Ukraine or by Ukraine that wiped out an estimated 1/3 of the Russian nuclear strategic air command. 1/3 of Russia's nuclear strategic air command. Ukraine, they did that. That's a country that's almost in third world status, no real military left, and certainly no missiles. They did it with drones. Imagine what could be done here with open borders and enemies like China and Iran, enemies all over the world. Now, I want you to understand, Jamie Dimon is not a guy that usually deals in hyperbole. He's not a man who chases the headlines. His words, and he knows this, move global markets. The good news is on this one, nobody will pay attention to him because nobody is interested in telling you the truth on how dire our situation actually is. His silence in most cases is his statement. That's the way they work at those levels. So when he breaks that silence and he does it this bluntly, you better believe it's calculated. Now, most of his peers are still peddling, ESG slideshows and blockchain buzzwords, but Diamond stepped into the national stage and said, we need to get real and we need to get ready. And here's the thing, he's not talking to hedge funds or Pentagon brass. He knows, look at her response. Oh, you're talking Bitcoin, we should all start by. He's talking directly to you. You. This isn't about rare earth or tanks. This is about a new era of scarcity. That's what you have to grasp from what Jamie Dimon was actually talking about. He is saying there's a reckoning with reality that most Americans and CEOs and everybody else are not prepared for. Play cut 2 of this, please.
You are going to see a crack in the bond market. Okay? It is going to happen. And I tell this to my regulars, some of who are in this room, I'm telling you it's going to happen, and you're going to panic. I'm not going to panic. We'll be fine. We'll probably make more money. And then some of my friends will tell me that we like crises because it's good for JP Morgan Chase. Not really. I just don't know it's going to be a crisis in 6 months or 6 years. And I'm hoping that we change both the trajectory of the debt and the ability of market makers to make markets. Yeah, it's coming. It's just part of all the stuff we talked about. And unfortunately, it may be that we need that to wake us up. It's an unfortunate thing.
Cut 3, please.
And all that. Do you think people in rural cities, do you think people in inner cities thought they were getting anything? Do you think that those people think that the American government is fair and competent and that this was in their best interest? Their schools don't work. They're not getting the skills they need. You heard that just now. So we got to acknowledge these. And I also call it blue tape because, Republicans, you generally don't like red tape. You understand the devastation of it. But, most Democrats, they love it. They want more of it. And they want to make it so confusing you can't even meet the rules, so you get punished and fined afterwards. Celebrate our virtues: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, equal opportunity, family, God, country. And you can acknowledge the flaws that we have, which are extraordinary. What we did to the black population for years. Don't denigrate the great things of this country, because those are two different things. If you have in any team, if you put a team on the field and the team's torn apart, they're going to lose. And that's kind of us right now. We're not a team anymore, and we don't collaborate. We don't.
Something much more urgent. In a time of instability, Bitcoin becomes an abstraction. It has no mass. It has no utility. Now, I'm a Bitcoin guy. I believe in Bitcoin. But Bitcoin depends on electricity and the internet and a collective belief. Bullets, they don't care if you believe in bullets or not. Fuel, doesn't matter if you believe in fuel or not. Food, these are not ideas. These are lifelines. Do you hear that what he was saying? Bullets, fuel, food, lifelines. Now, don't get me wrong. He's not, suddenly a patriotic prepper in chief. What he is doing is giving voice to something that the elites all know, but usually whisper behind closed doors. And he's saying it out loud now. The veneer, we learned this after 9/11. Remember how on 9/11, 9/12, 9/13, we realized, oh my gosh, this thing could collapse in a heartbeat. We all knew the veneer of civilization, the veneer of order is so thin. Even the largest company in the world is dangerously exposed. The largest economy in the world, ours, exposed. I want you to look at the numbers here. 80% of our rare earth minerals come from China. Basically everything from missile guidance to smartphones. 80% of it comes from China. What happens if they want to shut that off? What happens if we go to war? What happens if we just don't have the fuel to run, across the ocean? What happens to us? Our military, recruitment shortfalls time and time again, outdated infrastructure. I mean, how many trillions of dollars have we spent in the last 20 years on infrastructure projects? Look at our airports. Look at our munitions stockpile. It wouldn't last a long weekend if trouble really happened. And cyber attacks. One single cyber attack could shut down the grid for weeks. And what happens? See, here's the thing that you have to hear from Jamie Dimon. He is not saying prepare out of paranoia. He's saying it out of pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. You need to get good at pattern recognition. The world is no longer stable. It hasn't been. I don't know if you've noticed this for a while. But most people, all your neighbors, they're too distracted to notice cakes and circuses. Diamond went on to blast the, regulatory obsession, in order to make life difficult. Did you hear what he just said? Quote, Democrats, they love it. They want more of it, and they want to make it more confusing. So you can't even meet the rules. You'll get punished and fined afterward. For the last 40 years, we have lived on the assumption that convenience was safety, that digital meant durable, that global markets meant good. But history doesn't move in a straight line. It turns, it turns around sometimes, it bends, it recoils. And in that recoil, the essentials of survival never change. Shelter, energy, food, protection, human trust in one another. That's the most important. We don't have it.
Got any comments on that? What you think? Does it make any sense?
Some of it did, some of it didn't, Brother Leonard. But I was gonna ask, what's your wisdom on that? How do you see that?
He's saying that. Like he said, we only have a week's supply for it when it comes to our retaliation. If something happened to us, like a Pearl Harbor was to break out, we only have enough for a week to fight back. After a week, we'll be through. That's what he's saying.
Okay. Right.
That, the things we worrying about, you know what I mean? And if he know that, you think China and Russia don't know that?
Right. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
They definitely know that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Okay. So with that being said, did you read that? Did you watch that thing on Project Esther?
Right. Yes, sir. The what'd you call it? The mother of 2025.
Right.
Project 25.
Yeah.
Yes,
What you come up? What you take off? What's your take on that?
Well, all of that makes sense in what we've been shown, excuse me, as far as what you call it, the King Alpha plan. Right. And then and so first one thing you said with the smoke screen making it seem like all this immigration and all this locking down and things like that is about what do you call the other minority groups, but it's really about us. And so now this is right, yes, sir. So this is a clear sign now, from what I've seen, that they clearly targeting people like us.
Yeah, they trying to do it in a roundabout way, but if you zero in, like I said, they got a problem with anti-Semitism and anybody that denigrate Israel. Well, who doing that? The Hebrew Israelites. They telling everybody that they ain't the real Jews. So it's us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We the ones doing all exposing. You know, they even got a problem with what's going around by saying JC is black. All that. That's these Christian nationalists. Okay. Let me play some of it.
Do a check-in with Andrew Watkins. We try to see what's going on from the white Christian nationalist world. And usually, if it weren't for Andrea, it would be the worst part of our week because the stories she has for us are jarring. Fortunately, Andrea is one of the best people I know and a wonderful person. And we
very kind of you.
So if you don't know what a white Christian nationalist is and you're listening to this, you need to go and Google it. Go to YouTube and Google white Christian nationalists, and you'll get a real good definition of what it means. And it probably open your eyes up on things that's going on around you that you're not even aware of. Excuse me. Okay.
It's true. what should be the worst part of my week is actually the best part of my week. Let's check in with Andrew today.
You and Lisa both say that, and I mean, I just love hanging out with y'all too, so it's great.
Well, it's mutual. Andrea does the Substack for such time as this, which is really an essential read, and but she's been sounding the alarm on Project 2025 for years.
Over a year. I started last January 2024.
Is that
writing
right?
about it. As a white Christian Christo-fascist manifesto. Yeah.
It feels like a century that this has been happening.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Well, so this week, Andrew reached out to us to talk about, she wanted to talk about a thing that's been popping up for her and causing a lot of stress. And when I started reading into it last night, I understood exactly what she was talking about. But I also, Andrea, I grew up as a Methodist, which was sort of community first and religion maybe down like I didn't learn dogma. The most what I've learned was the many ways to prepare a potato, hot dish, tots, So I just want to set the table here a little bit. You're really focused on this thing called Project Esther this week.
Well, that was broken this week, I think, by the New York Times. Multiple outlets have written about it. So in a nutshell, what Project Esther is being presented as is a means of labeling Gaza protesters or Palestinian protesters terrorists or anti-Semitic based on their protest speech and activity and protecting Israel at all costs.
So check out what she's saying, how they're not even really aware of what we sitting there looking at it. So she's saying they got a problem with the people in Gaza protesters, and then she's gonna go to the schools, the universities. They're attacking the universities because that's where protests really started in schools. But those people are not doing the damage. It's Hebrew Israelites the ones doing the damage. What they saying is all fine and dandy, but we the ones that's doing the damage when it comes to exposing the nation of Israel that's over there now with Jewish people.
If you don't know who Esther was,
that was my next question.
Such a time, for such a time as this, is an homage to her. The title of my Substack is an homage to her. So Esther was a very famous, in Jewish history, she's one of the most seminal people. The Feast of Purim every year is in honor of her actions and her story. So she was a concubine of a Persian king when the Israelites were in captivity, one of the times that they were in captivity. And his most beautiful wife offended him by not coming when he ordered her to come somewhere. So you gotta look at this, like I said last night.
This is a Hebrew Israelite story. Esther is a Hebrew Israelite woman. So they already delusional because they thinking that this Esther got red hair, blue eyes, and all that, white woman. So they already, you gotta look at this. The truth is, ain't nowhere in this conversation. If you ain't already got it when you come to this conversation, you're gonna get discombobulated. Okay.
He cast her out and had a beauty pageant of all the women in the kingdom to pick his next most beautiful wife. And so this concubine, Esther, who was a Jewess, who was an Israelite, but nobody knew it, won the beauty contest, and he made her his most favored queen. He also had this advisor who hated the Jews, and on a certain day got the king to sign a decree that all the Jews would be executed in the kingdom. So Esther.
Okay. This one easy trick will save you thousands when buying a used car.
And then another thing I want you to check out on this, you know what I mean? Hold on 1 minute. Another thing I understand about this, what the story they talking about with Esther and what happened. You understand the story of Haman, which came from Amalek. The Amalekite king that Samuel killed. was his daddy. That's why he wanted to destroy the Israelites. Not the Jews, the Israelites. But these people with Project 2025 and this Project Esther doing the same thing to the Israelites. They in the process, they set up a plan to do what Haman did. But they're using a bullshit ass story, and they're using the same story against the actual people of God. Let that ferment.
Went to her husband unsummoned. You could not in that court go to the king without him summoning you, or you could be executed. He had to hold out a scepter to admit you. So she got herself all gussied up and went to see him unsummoned, and he was so taken with her beauty or whatever that he held out the scepter and let her come into his presence. And so she invited him to a dinner where she told him that she was Jewish, that he had signed a decree that she was going to be executed because of his advisor. So he amended it because decrees could not be changed, or it could not be revoked once the king signed them. He amended it to say the Jews could fight back. So because of her bravery and risking her life to go before her husband to plead for her people, they were saved from genocide. So the Feast of Purim every year celebrates that in the Jewish faith. As a white Christian nationalist child, she was my favorite. I mean, she's still my favorite Bible character because, you
amazing. She's
you
like
want
So Esther has nothing to do with white Christian nationalists. You gotta let that ferment. Okay.
to see.
For everything.
Yeah, I mean, and as a girl, there aren't a whole lot of women in the Bible to be like, oh wow, I'd like to be like her. Women are usually presented as awful people in the Bible. So she was amazing.
A sort of filth that you need to isolate, clean off. Well, that was my next question, because I wondered if you grew up with this story, and you did clearly, but was it a story of female empowerment as told by your community?
No. In white Christian nationalism, her uncle Mordecai played the key role in convincing her, taking her aside and telling her, who knows whether you didn't come to the kingdom for such a time as this, and God is going to use you, and you need to risk your life, and blah, blah, blah. So really it was because Mordecai convinced her to do it. But I always have seen it as, wow, what a badass she was, that she actually risked her life for her entire nation.
Yeah.
So as a girl, I identified with her bravery and her fierceness. But, of course, the emphasis was always on his having to convince her to do it in my upbringing.
Which I guess you could understand, that you couldn't have a woman take the lead role. You have to spin it so that the man is always the hero.
Exactly. So that's a background on Esther, and if you've heard of Project Esther, that's where the name comes from. And it incenses me, as I said yesterday, that they would take a strong woman who saved her people from genocide and turn her into a figurehead for suppression of speech and labeling your enemies terrorists, and etc. It incenses me that they would do that to her.
So, like I said, they're using the same story to do the same thing to the real Israelites. Let that ferment.
Yeah. I mean, there's no bottom, there's no basement, this is an endless pit of awfulness, clearly. But let's go back to Project Esther.
So here we go.
Because I'm not. Connect the dots here. What is Project Esther? Who's behind it? And what's happening?
So Project Esther is an initiative by the Heritage Foundation, which also coordinated and sponsored Project 2025. So they are billing Project Esther as an initiative to root out anti-Semitism in America.
So in America, see what they say? In America, root out anti-Semitism. So that means that anybody that's denigrating the nation of Israel, that's us, on the street corners, on YouTube, on TikTok. Come on.
And anyone who advocates for Gaza or Palestinians, they are going after and labeling anti-Semitic. And they're actually applying a lot of the laws that were passed in the wake of 9/11
Backdoor King Apple plan.
to focus on true terrorist activity, to try to see if they can get away with saying we still have a First Amendment, but also you're a terrorist because you're saying things that we disagree with.
And so if you ain't zeroed in, this already started. Those first 100 days with Trump all tied to this, because everything they're doing is toward the African Americans who are the Hebrew Israelites. We came over here from they came and got us from the west coast of Africa way back some 400 or 500 years ago and brought us over here. But we wasn't from West Africa. We came from a further place than that. We came from Israel. We was ran out of Israel back in 143 BC by Antiochus Epiphanes, the Antichrist. Then we came and settled on the West Coast. Then the prophecies that Moses had told us and the curses caught up with us on the West Coast. Ships came in Deuteronomy 28:68 and brought us over here. So look at the irony of this.
This group of people is a test case to see how much of that they can accomplish. But Project Esther has a much bigger goal of labeling anyone who disagrees with the regime a terrorist.
And I think that's what I'm hearing. You know, the news this week has every week, every day, every minute is flooded. You know, there's habeas corpus and its various definitions, and there's this budget that is patently immoral. You know, there's all of this, but this is something that's sliding. It's just sliding under, and it's why I was so interested in it when you reached out, because this is the thing that you know, solidifies power. It calcifies their reign, because it's, you know, you start picking on the least of us in order to control.
So let's look at this. Like I said, when you understand how close we are, because go back to the story of the Assyrian king when he came to Israel. He brought that 200,000 army that came to the gates of Israel and told the king, told Hezekiah that we're gonna party tonight, but in the morning we're gonna tear this place down. Well, that night the Lord of hosts showed up. That's how that's how close they. When they came there, they triggered the Most High, the Lord of hosts, to do what he done. So he showed up that night, turned all of them against each other. They killed everybody. That morning, when Hezekiah and them came to the wall, they was all of them was dead, laying all over the desert. All they had to do was open the gates and go out there and check all them pockets and get the gold and silver and all that they had in their tents and what they had on horses. And then the same story right here, what they basing this project off of, Esther. Haman had set the Israelites up. So we put the Lord of hosts in a predicament. He showed up and shut it down. Well, these nutbuckets doing the same thing. they putting the Lord of hosts in a predicament where he got to shut this down. Okay? That's how close we is. Okay? In the comments.
I just want, shalom, brother, and I just want to say that makes sense. Because I remember another time and different examples that we've seen in the scriptures. That's when the Lord of hosts shows up, when we're in dire need. You know, obviously that's what the Savior is. He's coming to help you, you know, in that time, in troubled times. So
right.
Yeah, it'll be here soon.
Right, exactly, because this is a genocide move. They at the same place where, like I said, where the Pharaoh was at. They're the same place where the Assyrian king was at, and where Haman was at. They want to do us bad. They want to annihilate us. So that they don't realize that they calling the Lord of hosts. They forcing his hand. Okay? Play a little more of this. Then we'll go. Okay.
Why do so many folks over being able to see the rationale behind all of this is important to get ahead of it. And just as another side note, I can see also somebody like Netanyahu thinking like, oh yeah, sure, whatever you want to believe, it helps me maintain power. Like
exactly, he's a useful tool, and Mike Huckabee is like the apex character of who believes this stuff.
Right. Right.
And so they make him the ambassador to Israel.
So let's go back a little bit. This is the name of this video is Project Esther Uncovered, right? Mike Huckabee. You got to go do your research on this nut bucket, because there's stuff going on that people ain't zeroing in on. Mike Huckabee, Israel, and the End Time Agenda. That's the name of it. So you got to go find out who Mike Huckabee is, right? And like I said, find out what white Christian nationalist is. Because like I said, when you do find out, it's going to take you to another level.
And his sole aim in life is to make Armageddon happen, or whatever he's back. I'm sure that's what he believes is going to happen. You know, so his entire foreign policy approach in dealing with Israel is going to be to steer things to mirror what he thinks is going to happen in the end times. That is his sole goal in life, in that position. So putting him in that position was just horrible when I saw that, because that is all he is going to focus on.
Just like Haman.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu is a useful tool for that, because Netanyahu's goal is I want to have all this land that we were given. It's our land according to our God, blah, blah, blah. You know, and so their goals align.
Yeah.
Rebuilding a temple there's already a Jewish group that's raising money to rebuild a temple. And in 2018, Pete Hegseth spoke to that group.
Oh my God.
And said, you know, I'm really happy to be here and we need to make this happen. And rebuilding the temple is one of the, it's the end times, it's coming, it's happening. This is, you know, it's from the book of Daniel. And so, you know, they're actively trying to make these things happen and participating in them. And then when they start happening, when things melt down, when things get really bad, they already have this millions of indoctrinated Americans. And I mean, when I was on Facebook, I'd see them. We had the money shortage. Remember when we had the change shortage back during the pandemic, and there was no change, and it was all this conspiracy. And I was still on Facebook, and they were all going, it's one world currency. The Antichrist is supposed to usher in one world currency and one world money, which is another, you know. And so look at this money shortage. The Bible's coming true. It's happening. Oh my God. And so, you know, there are all these people who every time something happens, they've been indoctrinated to say, well, COVID was part of the end times because pestilence.
Yeah.
Fires aren't climate change. Fires are they're part of the end times because these disasters were predicted. So, and people who can't think critically but weren't brought up in that will probably be sucked into that to some degree. We've seen.
Yeah, well, 18 years. You got 18 years time you're born until you get 18. You're already set up to fall for it. Yeah, so you got any comments on this, AJ?
No, sir. No.
Okay, yeah, so what I'm gonna do right now is I got another video kind of like comparison and contrast. This guy he's dealing more with, and you have to understand this, the white Christian national, like I said, and Christian Zionists. So I'm gonna play enough for you to get an understanding of what that is, and then we'll go on to do some reading out of talking. So they talked about white Christian nationalism in this. I'm just giving you a deeper understanding of it. Because if you don't understand what that is,
Influence has grown steadily in the United States in the second Trump administration. So what does this mean for the country's future? And how has Christian Zionism influenced the United States' support of Israel and the genocide in Gaza? This week in Upfront, I'll be asking those questions to University of Pennsylvania Chair of Religious Studies, Dr. Anthea Butler. Anthea Butler, thank you so much for joining me on Upfront.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark.
For years, we've heard about the rise of Christian nationalism in the United States. Since Donald Trump took office, the political influence of this particular group of Christians has only grown. But I still don't think we necessarily have a good sense of what Christian nationalism actually is. How would you explain it?
I would explain it somewhat like this. First of all, you think about America as being a Christian nation, right? That's something that's just ingrained in everybody. But Christian nationalists take it to the extreme. They believe that the founding of this nation was for Christians and Christians only. That, you know, the white men who came over, you know, whether they were Puritans or others that came over, this was their divine right to be here. That God created this nation to be protected, and that this was supposed to be for Christians and Christians only, and everybody else, you know, just not really particularly involved in the everyday affairs of the nation. The way I like to talk about Christian nationalism is you can't separate it from race. You need to think about whiteness when you talk about Christian nationalism, because there's something implicit in that term Christian nationalism that also means white. And that means that you have white men who are in leadership. God has appointed them to be in leadership. And that also means that those who are under them need to follow Christian rules, and that the nation is inextricably bound. It's bound to this idea that God created this nation, it is for a divine purpose, and that the nationalism that you see that people have, whenever somebody says, God bless America, we sort of invoke that, and we don't even realize that we're invoking a term of Christian nationalism.
So what's different now?
Okay, so when you listen to that right there, the first thing come to my mind is The Handmaid. What do you think?
Right. Yes, sir.
You saw The Handmaid, right?
Right. Yes, sir. The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, the whole council, when they white men.
Right. Yes, sir. And they had leadership positions.
Because all of them, it was a white council that was running everything, and
right.
America had been was wounded, right, in the movie, in the cities.
Right. Yes, sir.
America had been damaged. Okay, come on.
Now, if it's a term that's been used since day one,
yeah,
what does it mean to be in the midst of a Christian nationalist kind of almost renaissance in the era of Trump 2.0?
Yeah, it's not simply that you can say God bless America or you're praying for the nation. Now it means that Christianity gets embedded in government. So basically when we talk about the separation of church and state, as Thomas Jefferson would have talked about it when he wrote that letter to Danbury Baptist, now we're talking about Christianity being an explicitly privileged religion over and against every other religion in America, which isn't how this nation was founded, right? The founders wanted.
Well, how do you reconcile that with the idea that this was a Christian nation?
Yeah, because basically at the beginning, those founders were like, we're trying to escape persecution from England and all the rest of these people who want to impose religion on us. We don't want to impose it on anybody. Most of those founders were deists. They didn't even believe that God was involved in everyday affairs in this nation. Now what we have is an administration who's saying we're going to privilege Christians over everyone else, period, end of story. And that the way in which you see Christianity operating in 2025 is very different than the way, say, Billy Graham operated that Christian nationalism in the 1950s. So I think there's a profound difference because Christianity is being wielded as a weapon in terms of how this nation is being run and how people get talked about as being, you know, not Christian, not particularly involved in Christianity, and that ends up being a measure. So the kinds of things that the administration is doing right now, whether they're privileging Christianity or going after anti-Christian bias, for instance, means that if you're not Christian, this is going to be a problem for you.
So as you describe Christian,
so it says that going after anti-Christian biases. Like I said, that's Hebrew Israelites all day long.
Christian nationalism, I'm hearing a lot about foundation of governments. I'm hearing about politics. I'm hearing about laws. Not hearing a lot of God talk. How Christian is Christian nationalism?
Not very. I mean, if you think about it in terms of, you know, what people call the red letter of the gospel, the words of Jesus, right? You don't hear the word Jesus very much. You hear about God and you hear about law. And so the way I would tell somebody to listen for Christian nationalism,
that's how they roll. They hook me.
Is to say, did you hear anybody say Jesus? Did you hear anything, somebody say something about the golden rule? Did you hear anybody say turn the other cheek? You don't hear that when you talk about Christian nationalism. When I hear Christian nationalism in this country, and especially with this particular administration, I hear it as punitive. It is, you know, an Old Testament God, or, you know, if you want to talk about it like this, Hebrew Bible God, instead of a New Testament kind of environment of Christianity. So that's one. The second thing I think that's really important about this to think about in terms of Christian nationalism, how people deal with it, there's an element of capitalism in it. And I think that's also important. The way that people talk about prosperity, the way they talk about God blessing the nation, right? You get blessed if you're a Christian, but if you're not Christian, you're not going to get blessed financially or otherwise. And if we have to think about Christian nationalism alongside of prosperity, I think it's a very compelling way to think about this administration and the ways in which Christian nationalism has morphed, I'd say since 2000, actually. So biblical Israel, but it's also
Your wallet sucks. That's why we invented
So that was a breakdown on Christian nationalism. What we're going to listen to now is a breakdown on Christian Zionism. Okay, before we go there, yeah, that guy I was talking about was Julian Assange, right? You know who that is, right?
No, sir.
Julian Assange, you know the guy with the America got on, they got him banned for the information he leaked out.
Okay, right, the spy. Okay, yeah, yes, sir.
And it's another one too. It's another one. I can't take his name.
Is it I can't think of.
Yeah, he's in the military. They put him out and then yeah.
Yeah, Furbies or something.
I can't remember. I know Julian Assange. I was saying Elon Musk is like Julian Assange, Julian on steroids. You know what I mean? Because he got way more influence than Julian Assange do. So you know he would be a national security threat. I just want to shine a light on that because it came to my head. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And Brother Leonard, the Christian nationalism, that's Bad Faith, right? The documentary.
The documentary Bad Faith. They really go into understanding of what it is. And then, like I said, once you get understanding of what it is, you can see why all the things that's happening now in the last 100 days is all from white Christian nationalist perspective. They want us, they want to do away with us. And they cutting off all our means. They're trying to cut off all our means. It's the same way when the Pharaohs told the Hebrews to make brick with straw, without straw. That's where we at. Okay.
That's number one. But the second part of it, which I think is really important, and we have to think about organizations like Christians United for Israel, is that Israel is very important for Christians because if you believe that Jesus is going to come back, where does Jesus come back to? The plain of Megiddo. He's coming back there to fight Satan and do all this stuff. So it's about end times beliefs. So for Christians who believe this way, they believe that the nation of Israel is a very important part of fulfilling biblical prophecy. All right. So in this sense, the way in which when this war between Israel and Gaza started, when the attacks happened back on October 7th, one of the things that happened in Christian nationalists, Christian Zionist circles, was that they realized, oh, this might mean that Jesus is coming back really soon, and this may be leading up to that last battle. So that became a very important moment. So all this talk can't be eradicated from what is happening there, because the Zionist part also goes with the Christian nationalist part, because you see, in the way that the prophecy works for them, Israel and the United States are linked together. And so that.
Now, I know that part ain't in the Bible. I ain't the most religious person, but I ain't never seen the United States in the Bible.
No, but basically, who is that governor, the general who said, "Oh, America was in the Bible," and I was like, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" But yeah.
But let me ask you about this, because it's not just that Christian nationalist eschatology, their sort of vision of how the end of days happens, is tied up in politics. It seems to be an anti-Semitic narrative as well.
Yeah.
In this version of events, Jesus comes back, but Jews are either killed or forcibly converted.
Exactly. And this is
anti-Semitic?
Well, no, they don't. They believe that it's the end of this is what it's supposed to be, right? That the two of these are going to come together, and they don't see that as being anti-Semitic. So the ways in which things are playing out right now are very interesting. I've asked people this a lot of times. Do you realize they really want you to become Christian in the end? And they're like, oh yeah, but it's okay, right? And I think that that's a part of what's happening here, and even the ways in which some of the Christian nationalist things are being purported. There's a sense in which they don't understand Judaism to begin with, right? And so if we think about back a few years ago, back in 2012, when it was an election cycle back then, I'm thinking about there was a big meeting called The Response. It was prayer meetings. And at this prayer meetings, you would have, Christians blowing shofars. I mean, this is not your instrument of religion. This is for a specific purpose in Judaism. But they have appropriated prayer shawls and talents and all of these things, and they're Christians. It's not for them.
Would I be going too far to say that many of these Christian nationalists are pro-Israel and anti-Semitic?
Yeah, but I don't know that all of them would realize that they're anti-Semitic. And I think that's the point here. They think that because they love the nation of Israel and that they want to see Jesus come back, that these things are not incompatible, right? But in a sense, for us talking here, we, and scholars, they really are, because you're not allowing people to be the religious tradition that they were born into or that they converted to.
Installers. Okay, any comments on that? So, like I said before, all these lies, what we listening to, all the lies catching up with them. That's all you're looking at. Because JC a lie, the nation of Israel over there, those people over there is a lie. It's all catching up with them, right? And that's what we see the Most High, the Lord of hosts, always do. Confound. He came to the Tower of Babel and confounded the languages. Brought confusion of face, like Daniel said, because they rejected the Lord of hosts. And Nebuchadnezzar came, he said, to us belongeth the confusion of face. That's where we at. These folks, that's where they at. Lies and caught up with them. Okay? Any comments or questions before I start reading?
No, sir. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Brother Leonard. I just lied. I wanted to say that that is wicked, because we're Hebrews by blood. So for them to try to cut us off, that shows who they are. Children of wickedness.
Exactly. Children of wickedness. And I said in 2 Samuel chapter 7, right? Right. And the Most High put a distinction between Israel and the children of wickedness. They ain't the same people. Okay. So anyway, I'm in the Targums, the book of Exodus, chapter 29. I want to shine a light on something right quick. It says, and this is the thing that thou shalt do to them to sanctify them. So this is when the Most High, the Lord host gave Moses the instructions on how to sanctify the Levites, right? It says, and this is the thing that thou shalt do unto them to sanctify them, to minister unto me as priests. So these are suffering servants. In case you ain't know it, Isaiah 53, these are suffering servants. Take one young bull, check it out. Take one young bull, 2 rams without a blemish, and unleavened bread, and pierced cakes, unleavened, mingled with oil, and wafers, unleavened, anointed with oil, of flour or wheat, shalt thou make them, and thou shalt put them into one basket, and offer them in the basket with the bull and the 2 rams, right? So remember what Abraham done, Genesis 15, when he sacrificed, right? And Aaron and his sons, thou shalt cause to approach unto the entrance of the appointed tent, and shalt lave them with water. So that means wash them. So these Levites got to wash Aaron and his sons. Let that friend make. And shall lave them with water, and thou shalt take the garments and clothe Aaron with the inner garment and the robe of the ephod and the ephod and the breastplate, and fasten the ephod on him with a curious girdle of the ephod. And thou shalt put the mitre upon his head, and put the demidan of the holiness upon his mitre. So what he's looking at is, remember when they got ready to leave Babylon, the Lord of hosts came to Zechariah and Haggai and told them, get 7 men that's skilled in metalwork and skilled in gold and metal, make 2 crowns, right? So the king wear a crown on his head, and the high priest have a crown on his head. A lot of people don't know that. It's 2 anointed ones. So it says, clothe Aaron with the inner garment and robe of the ephod and the breastplate, and fasten the ephod on him with the curious girdle of the ephod. And thou shalt put the mitre upon his head. That's the wrap, the mitre, right? Cloth, white cloth. Say, and thou shalt put the mitre upon his head, and put the demidan of holiness upon the mitre. That's the crown. Then thou shalt take the anointing oil, pour it upon his head, and anoint him. So the same way David got anointed, Aaron got anointed the same way. So it's 2 messiahs. And thou shalt cause his sons to approach, and clothe them with inner garments. And thou shalt gird them with belts. Aaron and his sons bind high caps on them, and the priest office shall be theirs. Check it out. The priest office shall be theirs for an ordinance forever. And thou shalt consecrate Aaron and his sons, and thou shalt bring nigh the bull. Check it out. Bring nigh the bull before the appointed tent, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon the head of the bull, and thou shalt slaughter the bull before the eternal. So we just talked about that, AJ. See, thou shalt slaughter the bull before the eternal. He's standing right there. Lord of hosts standing right there. See that? So they slay the bull before the eternal, by the entrance of the appointed tent, and thou shalt take the blood of the bull. So let's look at it right quick. So remember when Miriam and Aaron was talking against Moses?
Right, yes, sir.
So what, Lord of hosts came down at the door of the temple, right? In the cloud.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
He came out and he called Aaron, Moses, and Miriam out at the door of the temple to talk to them. So here goes the same thing right here. It says, and thou shalt slaughter the bull before the eternal by the entrance, see that? By the entrance of the appointed tent. The same thing he did with Miriam and Aaron. Told him, come out, come here. He's standing there in a cloud at the door of the temple, of the tabernacle. Same thing right here. And thou shalt take of the blood of the bull. It's going to get ugly, right? So it says, and put it upon the horns of the altar with thy finger, and pour all the blood beside the base of the altar. And thou shalt take all the fat that covered the inwards. Check it out. Take all the fat that covered the inwards, and the lube. I talked about this before. And the lube that is above the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and cause them to be ascend. Check it out. Cause them to ascend in fumes upon the altar. So what you think is gonna happen? When they burn that, the Lord host standing right there, he's gonna smell it. That's why he says it's a sweet savor in his nose. Nobody ain't getting that. So he says, and the two kidneys and the fat that is upon them cause them to ascend in fumes upon the altar. But the flesh of the bull, check it out, the flesh of the bull and its skin and the dung shall I burn with fire without the camp, because you don't want to smell that. Say, it is a sin offering. And the one man and the one ram thou shalt also take. Aaron and his sons shall thou lay hands upon the head of the ram, and thou shalt slaughter the ram. Now check it out. And thou shalt take its blood, sprinkle it about upon the altar, and the ram thou shalt savor in the pieces, and wash it inward parts and its legs, put them unto its pieces and unto its head, and thou shalt cause the whole ram, look at this, cause the whole ram to ascend in fumes. See that? Go up in his nose, right? In fumes upon the altar. It is a burnt offering unto the eternal. See that? So they burning it and they causing the fragrance and the incense. It's for him. Him to smell it. Okay? See that? It says it is a pleasing odor. See that? It is a pleasing odor and an offering made by fire unto the eternal. See that? And thou shalt take the second ram, and the ram of his sons shall thou lay their hands upon the head of the ram. Then shall thou slaughter the ram, and take of its blood, and put it upon the tip of the right ear of Aaron, and upon the tip of the right ear of his sons, and upon the thumb of their right hand, and upon the great thumb of their right foot, and sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about. And thou shalt take of the blood that is upon the altar and of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it upon Aaron, and upon his garments, and upon his sons, and upon his garments of his sons with him, and he shall be holy. And his garments, check it out, and his garments, and his sons' garments with him. Also thou shalt take of the ram the fat, and the fat tail, and the fat that covered the inwards, and the lube above the liver, and the two kidneys, and the fat, check it out, the fat that is upon them, and the right shoulder, for it is a ram of consecration, and of one loaf of bread, and one pierced cake of all bread, and one wafer out of the basket of the unleavened bread that is before the eternal. See that? It's before the eternal. And thou shalt put all in the hands of Aaron and in the hands of his sons, and shall wave them for a wave offering before the eternal. And thou shalt take them from their hands and cause them to ascend. See that? In fumes upon the altar, besides the burnt offering, for a pleasing odor before the eternal. It is an offering made by fire unto the eternal. And thou shalt take the basket of the ram of Aaron's consecration, and wave it for a wave offering before the eternal. And it shall be thy part. And thou shalt sanctify the breast of the wave offering, and the shoulder of the heave offering, which is waved, and which is heaved up, and the ram of the consecration. Right? Okay, keep going. It says, even that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be Aaron and his sons by statute forever from the children of Israel. For it is a heave offering, and it shall be a heave offering from the children of Israel of the sacrifice of their feast offering, even their heave offering unto the eternal. And the holy garments, check it out. I'm gonna show you what's up with these holy garments in a minute. And the holy garments of Aaron shall be his sons after him, to be anointed therein, and to be consecrated in them. 7 days shall he among his sons that the priest in his stead put them on, when he cometh into the appointed tent to minister into the holy place. And the ram of the consecration thou shalt take the seat, its flesh in a holy place, and Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket by the entrance of their appointed tent, and they shall eat those things wherewith the expiation was made to consecrate. Okay, to consecrate. Let me see. To consecrate and to sanctify them, but the stranger shall not eat thereof, because they are holy. And if aught of the flesh of the consecration of the bread be left unto the morning, then thou shalt burn that which is left with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy. It is holiness. And thus shalt thou do unto Aaron and unto his sons according to all these things which I have commanded thee. 7 days shalt thou consecrate them, and a bull besides the sin offering thou shalt offer every day for expiation, and thou shalt purify the altar when thou hast made an expiation for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it. 7 days thou shalt make an expiation for the altar and sanctify it, and it shall be an altar most holy. Whatsoever toucheth the altar shall be holy. Now this is that which thou shalt offer unto the offer upon the altar: 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continuously. That's what I told you, the oblations. That's what Antioch Epiphanes stopped. The Antichrist, right? Say the 1 lamb thou shalt offer in the morning. See that? And the other lamb thou shalt offer in the evening. That's what happened with Daniel. Daniel said at the evening oblation, Gabriel showed up, right? And with the 1 lamb, a 10th deal of flour mingled with the 4 parts of a hin of beaten oil, and the 4 part of a hin of wine for a libation. And the 2nd lamb thou shalt offer at evening, and shall do thereof according to the oblation. That is, oblation of the morning, and according to the libation thereof, for the pressing of the odor and the offering made by fire unto the eternal. This shall be a continual burnt offering throughout your generations at the entrance of the appointed tent before the eternal, where I shall be met by you. See that? Yeah. Where I shall be met by you to speak there unto thee, and there will I be met by the children of Israel, and it shall be sanctified by my glory, and I will sanctify the appointed tent and the altar, and I will sanctify also both Aaron and his sons to minister to me as priests. See that? I will sanctify also both Aaron and his sons to minister to me as priests. So that's the witnesses in Isaiah 43. Ye are my witnesses. You know, you see me, you know who I am, right? It says, they ain't no Jesus, they don't see Jesus. So it says, and I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel. They go to midst, and I will be their God. And they shall know that I am the eternal. See that? They're the witnesses. I am the eternal, their God, that brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell in the midst of them. I am the eternal, their God. And thou shalt make an altar for a burning of incense of acacia wood, shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit of the breadth thereof. Oh, I went over into chapter 30, but there you go, right there. So now let's get to these garments. Like I said, this is the dagger right here. So we see how he extended the understanding on the garments, right? So that's why once you get the proper understanding, when you go to Isaiah, right? Everybody want to know who the suffering servant is, right? So let's go to Isaiah right quick. Isaiah 53. Everybody getting bent out of shape with Isaiah 53, right? Trying to figure out who the suffering servant is. Well, 52, 13, 14, and 15. Here go the garments. Behold, this haven't happened yet. This is how we're going to know that we're at the end. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. His servant is a priest, Aaron and his sons and the Levites. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted in the last days and extolled and be very high. 14, as many were astonished at thee, his vestments, the garments we just talked about. His garments were so marred more than any man, and the form more than the sons of men. Now here you go. 15, so shall he sprinkle. So now he got his garments, all these garments, all that, they got that back on. He shall sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him, for that which they had not been told. They ain't told this. Shall they see? That which they had not heard, shall they consider. See, right there, in the talking. Up to this point, the garment's been decimated. They ain't got them on. That's why they don't know who they are. But when this time comes right here, they're going to have the garments on. They're going to be standing right there, like I said, before the Lord. They're going to be at his feet with their garments on. Ain't nobody else on the planet that's sprinkled except the Levites and the priests and Aaron. So there go your suffering servant right there before you get to Isaiah 53. And then verse 1, Isaiah 53 and 1 tell you who they are. Who have believed our, who is our? The Levites and the priests and Aaron's sons. Okay? Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments before we? Okay, you got a scripture, AJ?
Oh yes, sir, Brother Leonard. I read something like this the other day in Levi in the Testament of the Patriarchs, of the 12 Patriarchs, and
Right.
this chapter 8, Brother Leonard, and it says, and there again I saw a vision as the former, after we had spent 70 days there, and I saw 7 men in white raiment, saying to me, arise, put on the robe of the priesthood and the crown of righteousness and the breastplate of understanding and the garment of truth and the plate of faith and the turban of the head and the ephod of prophecy. And they carried these things separately and put them on me and said to me, from now on become a priest of the Lord, you and your seed forever. And the first anointed me with holy oil and gave me a staff of judgment. The second washed me with pure water and fed me with bread and wine, the most holy things, and clad me with a holy and righteous robe. The third clothed me with a linen vestment like a ephod. The fourth put a girdle around me like to purple. The fifth gave me a branch of rich olive. The sixth placed a crown on my head, and the seventh placed the diadem of priesthood on my head and filled my hands with incense, that I might serve as a priest to the Lord God. Shalom.
Ain't that something? So there it is right there.
Right,
So that's
sir.
the 7 ages, right?
Right, exactly. Yes, sir.
Right. So like I was saying, you got what these people have done. What they don't understand is we saw when Nebuchadnezzar came. Well, when you go to when Moses, the things that was holy, like the vessels, the cups, and all that was holy. The Levites was holy. So when Nebuchadnezzar came, he took the cups and all the furniture in the temple, but the Levites went with it because the Levites holy too. They're all holy. They all part of the holy vessels. When it was time for them to come back, the Levites came back with the Cyrus gave them. The Levites went and Cyrus came out with all the vessels. They all go together. That's how that worked. So when you look at these 7 angels, we see the same thing over when Adam was made in the book of Bartholomew. Like I say, our scriptures was just like we were scattered, the scriptures were scattered. That's what people can't understand. So over in the book of Bartholomew, he tells you how Adam was made the same way. One of the angels went to a certain place and got some kind of special water. We know that our body's made up of X amount of water, right?
Right, yes, sir.
So one of them went and got a certain amount of water. One of them went and got some kind of stone, special stone from a certain place for our bones, and another one when he got this. That's how Adam was made. He brought all that back to the Lord of hosts, and then he made Adam. And we see the same thing right here. But we read over it. We can't see it because we thinking that it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Not understanding that it was 7 angels in the very beginning that the Most High formed from himself. And then once you understand it, then you start seeing it all the way through the Tanakh. These 7 angels showing up, or reference to these 7 angels. And there it is right there in the story you just read. Okay?
Right. Yes, sir. The 7 that stand by Joshua is Zerubbabel, right?
Right. Exactly. And there's some?
Right. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, and another shalom. I'll see everybody in the morning for our morning Shabbat class. Shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.